All right, we're back. Quick little break. Professor Egan, we were talking about YouTube, and I want to transition. We don't have to leave YouTube. You make that call. But we've recently had some kind of bumps in the road with late night TV with the announcement of the end of the Colbert Show.
Mhm.
And earlier in the podcast, you didn't realize it, but you kind of preempted my second portion of this, which was, is this going to be consolidation, right? Are we heading into some wild consolidation? And the first announcement was the most logical, right? Hulu just gets absorbed into Disney, and that's logic, right? So because that's
Mhm.
their content anyway. Um, and then there's the overriding theme of the the physical equipment manufacturers. So this is Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and all the various products that have their own gateways into CTV. And I think that those products are all going to have, similar to what's going on at YouTube TV. We'll see big shifts in those categories. What I'm interested in from your perspective on the agency side is, this is kind of now becoming, there's a lot to cover. If you're an ad agency, you're dedicating a lot more time because you still have the traditional networks, right? You're still doing upfronts, and then you have all of these other areas expertise. Agencies are they're the alpha, right, for their clients, particularly big clients, and big clients are getting deeper and deeper. There's more agency people working at big clients. How does it work? How are you able to keep up with this stuff? Is this like when the internet showed up and you were dealing with 200 magazines and you just threw that onto the pile, you just added more people, more analyzing, more strategy? Where does the consolidation go in your opinion? And then the big question is, what's going to happen with late night?
Well, I'm not usually a big proponent of consolidation. I don't think that that generally serves consumers in the best light and or advertisers. But I think at this juncture we've become so fragmented that consolidation will be a good thing. I think the more challenging thing for agencies, and if I had the answer to that, I would probably not be sitting here talking to you on a Friday afternoon. No offense.
Damn.
Um, but I talk to my friends both on the agency side and the client side, and my big question to them, like at the emergence of, let's just say, streaming video, let's go back as far as full episode players when it was just the networks
Yeah,
putting their content online. Um, we fought over whether the TV buyers would buy that or the digital people would buy that. And there was always sort of that tension. Um, but we generally knew that I had this budget that went to the upfronts and my ads were going to run on this network and I could get that schedule and report that out to the client. And, similarly with the digital, even if they were digital first video networks, I was placing my money here and I had some way of tracking that. I talk to folks today and I'm like, if sticking with YouTube TV, if you see your ad running on late night on YouTube TV, do you have any idea how that got there? And everyone's like, no. Like
right.
it's just
In the
who
buy.
knows? Did you buy it through the network? Did you buy it through within the network, there's still somewhat bifurcated between
Sure.
linear TV and digital. Did that get purchased through YouTube directly? Did it get purchased programmatically? No idea. I don't know how anyone's tracking any of this stuff anymore. And, I think, that's why I say I think some consolidation is probably helpful. The other thing, we've talked before about the demise of the cookie and whether that will or will not happen. And, as that is relevant in a data privacy lens, what doesn't get as much exposure is what does that do to our ability to measure and track what we're already doing? So forget about whether or not I can identify the person who saw that. That's a whole other conversation.
Right.
But if I lose the ability to track that an ad was run and an action was taken, then all bets are off. Now what do I do? You know, we go back to impression based, we go back to contextual, which isn't a horrible place to be, but it's going to mean that it's going to cost advertisers a whole lot more money to reach the right audience. And we all know that cost gets pushed down to the consumer.
Yeah, I mean it's become a real big dollar, operation, and it's a frustration. I mean, we've gone over this before just on trying to get to your if you're watching three different events, which did happen to me, the amount of gatewaying that I had to get through, ad pods, the whole thing was almost like, oh my God, I can't. Now, I'm this guy's generation, so maybe I'm not what they're worried about, but it's still frustrating if you're a young person. It's not as simple as just going on your phone and flipping your thumb around. You're waiting, you're gatewayed in. Let's transition in terms of, well, not transition away, but the consolidation of it. Do you think the Samsungs, the Apples, the Rokus? I mean, Roku is slowly but surely building their own channel here. Apple has, it's kind of it's like they've stuck their toe in the door. Maybe they have their
Mhm.
foot in the door. It's beyond a toe; it's a foot, but they're
Mhm.
not quite deep in. Apple TV Plus is not. They have some hits, right? They
Mhm.
got the soccer show. They got the weird kind of what's Severance. They've got their
Yeah.
program, but they don't have a breadth of programming. They've got a little bit of sports right on the way. Roku is coming. Samsung has obviously has a huge connection now, and all the TVs in my house are Samsung. So
Mhm.
where does this go? Where do they have to jump in here? How do you consolidate?
Well, I mean, they have already jumped in. I mean, certainly the OEMs, the TV manufacturers, I think have more than a foot in the door. They do have their Roku-like networks. Now, does
Yeah,
anybody watch it? I don't have the numbers on that.
no.
Most of that is B-roll footage or really old reruns. But I think they're making a decent amount of money off of it. Um, so, uh, I don't know if they overtake the
Because
traditional
yeah,
network.
because I mean the money, right? Scripted television is nearly gone, right?
Mhm.
Like all we now get, you're get. I mean, news is not even that important anymore on TV. You're really sports and some reality TV,
Mhm.
so it's inexpensive. They're cutting out the Stephen Colbert show, the number one show in ratings, has been basically told. Again, you and I could just we argue both that this is not just about that. There's other factors going into the Paramount decision, however it looks. But from what I'm hearing, little birdies in my ear telling me the other shows are in trouble too. So, changes are going to be big there as well. Monkey see, monkey do. So,
Mhm.
if big changes are coming for that, what are we paying for? Like I am now reduced down as a consumer, forget my media knowledge. As a consumer, I'm basically paying for the Knicks and the Yankees and what exactly?
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
think we didn't even know. Paula and I, there was a little earthquake here in
Yeah,
New
yeah.
Jersey. We didn't know where we could go to watch local
Right.
television to see if it was an earthquake.
Right. And you probably couldn't. Did you
Well,
find any place?
I thought about it after a while. I was like, oh, that's why I have Fubo. So I could
Yeah.
have gone to NBC there, but could I go to Peacock? Could I have gone to Peacock? I don't even know. This is what I'm saying is there's no direct. This is where I feel like, and I really hope that we get the guests that I really want to come on to talk about this. This consolidation, I think at the equipment level is more important than the consolidation at the, let's call it, the studio level. So if Disney buys Hulu, that's a logical maneuver, right? They're already bundling
Mhm.
that thing together anyway.
Mhm.
Then we're looking at consolidation into these platforms so that I could use my remote control or my phone as my remote control to just make one or two steps to get to what I want to watch instead of watching 40 minutes of commercials before I get to my. This is where media needs to go, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out because of the ramifications for the user experience.
Well, it would make me very sad if this happened. So I'm not really advocating for it. But unfortunately, I think what is ultimately going to happen is that traditional studio model is going to get blown apart. I mean, we have held so tightly onto that 30, 60-minute format, whether it's news, whether it's reality, or whether
Yeah,
it's scripted television. And, I'm one of probably few who were really sorry to see Quibi go away. And for those of you who may not have even known what Quibi was,
I know.
it it was, oh, who were the was it Jeffrey Katzenberger and
Yeah,
Meg
and I
from
know. I
H?
mean, another Jersey City resident was
Oh,
part
there
of
you
the
go.
yeah, was part of the the sales team there. So I knew it. I mean, I knew it well, and I
Yeah.
think that
So,
it
poor
was a great
Meg.
idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name, but the brains behind HP's turnaround and Jeffrey Katzenberger from Pixar. The whole idea was they were going to create shows that were snackable content. So they were like 6-minute episodes. Now you could watch them back to back and watch 30 minutes or 60 minutes of a show. My favorite was Murder Home Makeover. It combined true crime and home makeover. It was awesome. They would go into a home that a famous murder
What?
occurred and make it
Oh,
over.
okay, I was like, are they committing murder? What's going on? Katzenberg's
Uh,
crazy.
but again, I'm probably one of the few. But they launched in April of 2020. The whole
Mm,
premise of this programming was that people are on the go
on the go,
watching,
on the move. I remember.
on the
Yeah,
move,
great
watching.
timing.
Yeah. So, I think it was a prescient idea that was ahead of its time. And I think we're going to start to see more and more of that because, as we've said before, you know, your kids aren't going to go jump through the hoops that we're jumping through to watch these scripted shows or even the reality shows, um, because that's not where they come from. So I think I think that I do think places like Samsung and Roku, who are starting with a essentially clean slate, do have an opportunity to just reimagine, remake what video is.
I think it's a huge moment, Beth. I really do. I think that we are as big as anything. I think this has got to happen. I mean, I grew up with a TV with a dial at 13 channels. That was it. Then I got to the one that I could press the buttons. We're at a really weird spot because it's actually ruining the experience. I think what happens is people get frustrated, they walk away, and then they go onto their doing whatever else, YouTube and or TikTok or wherever they're going. They're
Mhm.
not spending that, not getting their eyeballs on those programs, and the interfaces are tough. I didn't realize I need to apologize to a lot of UX people who worked with and for me and through the years. That's a tough job.
Mhm.
That is a tough job. That is a job that, I really would love to bring some UX people on here. You and I could talk to them about, the idea that you have to think about how a human mind is going to channel surf and what content to showcase and how to do it. Just unbelievable. But with that, my friend, let's call it for the weekend.
Love it.
We've got a couple of guests coming up soon. We have another, the media game is coming back. We gotta bring that back. So I will leave you to your Friday and enjoy the rest of your weekend, my friend.
Same to you. Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, pal.